channel. Rainbow Love. Gay brothers share the success gay love stories. Story 1. Approximately 7 years ago, a friend of mine asked if he could invite a couple of his friends that I hadn't met before to one of my epic New Year's Eve parties. I consented, because night party, you know? Anyway, one of the two guys was a self-centered prick that couldn't hold his liquor. The other guy was cute, shy, a bit gamer, and could tend to hookah like a pro, even while smashed. We ended up talking, started swapping stories about different concerts we've been to, discussing camping and off-roading, and I showed off my guitar collection. We both snuck off to the basement to burn a quick joint, and laughed and generally had a great time. Ended up snagging his number, and him info. Before he had to leave, he had work the next morning and couldn't be out all night. Being an extreme closet case, I could only bring myself to text the guy, fearing that he was, much like most of the crush at first sight situations I'd ever had, straight. We started hanging out, had a lot of fun, went to some concerts. He's more of a power metal kind of guy, I'm more aggro tech, but we both had major musical interest overlap. We'd gone hiking lots, enjoyed beer snobbing it up. One time I drove 3 hours round trip to rescue him from a party where a buddy of his bailed DD duty to hook up with some skank. We met up every week on Wednesday evening to go burn our taste buds out at a killer type place. And after a few months, I realized that I had a choice to make, either enjoy the heck out of a great friendship, or out myself, and my feelings, to him, and risk ruining everything. We were driving up through Rocky Mountain National Park in the middle of the night one weekend, hauling ass through the twisties, laughing about how the pizza we brought along was gonna be all smashed by the time we got somewhere to park and eat it. Or so I thought. He was the only one talking. I was silent and white-knuckled and my stomach felt like it was gonna chew itself in half. He asked me what was wrong. I lied and said nothing was wrong. He shrugged and we kept driving. Got up to this one sweeping overlook, and parked. I tried to make conversation, but I could only manage 3 or 4 words to a sentence. Eventually, he pointed out that I was acting weird as heck and wanted to know what was going on. So, I opened my mouth, and finally let it all out. I told him that he's an amazingly cool friend and I didn't want to risk the friendship and freak him out or anything, but I just wanted to let him know the truth. I'm gay. I sighed, having let out half of what was making me nervous as heck. He left and started to say something, but I cut him off. I went on to tell him how he's amazing and somehow I developed a huge crush on him, and I was sorry, and I should have mentioned things sooner so that I could get over myself, and if he wanted me to never bring it up again, that was cool. But mostly, I wanted to let him know that he was too awesome of a person for me to lie about my feelings to. I let my head hang, and waited for the awkwardness to set in. Silence and emotion are a funny thing, when combined, time itself slows to a crawl. It felt like forever, but could have only been a few seconds, for all I know, and silence. I couldn't bring myself to look at him. I know the scornful look when you tell a straight friend that you think they are hot and are attracted to them. It hurts, the pain can only be described as your very soul getting kicked in the lickings. But, I had awkward, cold silence. He didn't say a word, just tackled and pinned me. I cringed. He was no bigot, certainly he wasn't gonna. Fully prepared to meet fist, my lips were surprised when what hit them was another pair of lips. He sat up, and smiled at me, then told me he had thought I was straight, so he kept himself closeted around me. We mostly laughed and talked the rest of the night, then cuddled up and watched the sunrise. Things progressed kinda slowly over the next month or so. Rushing things had killed a good half-dozen relationships for me before, so I was in no hurry. We didn't even tell our friends about it until we had been dating for a few months. Eventually, we decided that we were officially a thing. 18 months into the relationship, we moved in together. We've had our ups and downs, of course. Love is never perfect. But it's ours. We carved it, shaped it, forged it, fought to defend it, and 2 years ago, eloped to get a piece of paper to help protect it. Years ago. Story 2. Here's my success story. I recently moved to Seattle, Washington from Louisiana. I figured that, once here, my prospects as far as dating would increase by an order of magnitude. I think was technically true, but I'm not much of a bar hopper and I'm not into the hookup culture. My solution? OkCupid. I built out my profile and started messaging people, creepin', and all the other usual business. After a couple months, I was able to make some really great friends, but no dates. I kept answering questions and shooting down quiver matches, and OkCupid started matching me almost exclusively to married bisexual men. I admit I was apprehensive about seeing a bi guy, but eventually I said duck it and messaged a few of the single ones that I'd been matched with. suggested that we meet. That, for me, was pretty unusual. I'm never that forward, but I really wanted to meet him. I was insanely excited and nervous about that first date. I was scared on some level that he'd only want to be friends when I already knew that I wanted more than that. But I sure wasn't going to pass up the opportunity to make a friend as awesome as this guy. We met at a bubble tea place near the University of Washington. We then proceeded to talk for a few hours, witness a fender bender, walk up and down the app twice, talking and feigning a search for food before finally getting time and returning to his apartment, where we talked and ate for another hour or so before I reluctantly left to catch my bus home. I can honestly say from that interaction that I have never met anyone that I connected with so quickly on every level. It's like we are completely on the same wavelength, we make the same kinds of jokes, we make references to the same shows and books, we even talk the same way. It was amazing. As soon as I got home, we made plans to meet again. We saw each other almost every evening that week, and part of the weekend though he had other responsibilities to attend from time to time. I don't think we've gone more than a day or so without seeing one another since we met. The best part of all of this? He feels just as strongly about me as I do about him. He makes me feel feels I don't know how to analyze or categorize completely. Love songs suddenly started making sense where previously they seemed weird or creepy. He even braved a needle for me, no small feat, just yesterday so that we could go get HIV/STI tested together. Smile. So yeah, I'd say that those happy endings are well within reach. I've had friends tell me for years, oh, you'll meet that special someone that will just sweep you off your feet, and wrote it off as platitude. But yeah, it totally happened to me and I'm still having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. Stick it out, brothers, there is, in fact, a guy out there for you. Tongue. Story 3. Okay, Cupid here as well. I typically never responded to one-liners. He said, "How are you, mister?" and I was a little put off with being called mister. I'm 25, so I replied with something like, "I'm a little young to be a mister," and we chatted from there. After a week we met up for what I think is a great first date. We went to Starbucks, then moved on to a bar across the street for a few drinks. We talked a lot and loosened up a bit. Afterward we went back to my place, listened to some music, then went out for midnight hot pot in the city. I was surprised because he drove a huge Toyota pickup. We were pretty happy and giddy all night. Saw each other for a few weeks, then made it official. He's moving in this month with me and my roommates. It's been a year. I don't know if it was love at first sight, but we really seem to have a lot in common and I feel like I've known him for years. He told me later that he felt that while we were at Starbucks he thought I was acting too reserved and it turned him off. So luckily we moved on to drinks where I apparently became more chatty. We get along really well, but we have our bickerings. I'm a pretty hard person to get along with, so I give him his props. Thank you for watching. Comment, what do you think about this situation? Don't forget to like and subscribe.